What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today got a film room episode for you guys. We're going to be going over the Windback counterplay. Probably one of my favorite concepts in Arthur Smith's playbook. We'll talk about how he sets it up, why it's such a successful counter for his system, and some of the details from a play that I think you guys are going to see pretty often come this fall. So I've got a couple different variations to show you all. Excited about that. Just before we get started, please make sure that you like the video, subscribe to the channel, drop a comment. All that stuff is greatly appreciated on my end. And without further ado, let's jump right into it. So really, like we've talked about on the channel since the hire, Arthur Smith's offense is very zone heavy, wide zone, mid zone in particular. This is really the foundation of his offensive philosophy and what defenses are primarily game planning to stop on a weekly basis. If you just look at the numbers since he became an offensive coordinator in Tennessee before taking over as the head coach and the play caller in Atlanta, they have consistently been the #1 zone rushing team in the NFL from a usage perspective. And one of his changeups that he likes to use is called Windback or Windback counter. I'll let this thing play through one time so you guys can kind of see in full speed what this play is really about, and then we'll kind of break it down from a more finer detailed perspective. Now, right here, right after the ball is snapped, you will see that the offensive line and running back are all using the same zone footwork that they would typically use on outside zone, really to sell the threat of a stretch to the perimeter, with the exception of the center, who is going to basically jab and then reverse out to pull. Kind of a unique thing that you don't see every day here, but his responsibility is really to kick out the end man on the line of scrimmage. The play side tackle is going to climb up to the linebacker to kind of seal him off. And ideally, we would like for the tight end, in this case is McCole Pruitt, number 85. Ideally, we would like for him to wash this defensive end down a little bit further, and for the wide receiver, which is Drake London, number 5, to be able to climb up and at least get a hand on this spinning safety. But you see right here, Bijan makes one cut. Kind of the one cut rushing attack is what this offense is really based on, but he's still able to get to the second level untouched and then gets barely tripped up, but a really nice gain of 9 yards on this play. Now, the next variation that we're going to look at is from a two-back look. Smith's offense uses a fullback quite a bit, although it's a little bit uncertain of who's going to fill this role on the Steelers offense at this point. There's a couple different options. Pruitt did it a little bit in Tennessee. They got Connor Hayward. So that's going to be something to, take note of, because this role is really important for this scheme. But same thing right here. You will notice, get the same footwork from the offensive line with the exception of the center. He's going to jab and then reverse out. Now, he's going to be kicking out the edge defender, but this time we have a receiver in the sniffer position. So I call like the sniffer position basically the Y off, or he's playing off the ball. In this case, it's going to be Matt Collins, number 18. But basically, he's going to pull and be the lead blocker. Now, this plays against the linebacker's keys because you have the fullback and the entire offensive line moving in one direction, but the ball and two pullers are heading the other direction. So this is something to keep in mind, too, from a personnel standpoint, because Hollins was a guy who really carried a pretty significant role on Atlanta's offense last year, even though he didn't catch a lot of passes. So whenever you're trying to factor in the playing time distribution for the wide receiver position, whichever guy is able to fill this role as a run blocker in the run game is going to get a significant amount of playing time. It's going to be pretty crucial to their success. Right here, though, you see a nice block here. You see the tackle trying to roll up to the linebacker, get a hand on him. Number 70 does a really nice job getting a block here. Again, we get another 9-10 yard gain with Bijan pretty much getting to the second level untouched. So in the same game, Atlanta ripped off an explosive run from the same formation just to the other side. One of the reasons I'm really excited about this play in general is the Steelers have a bunch of really good pullers on the offensive line. You think about, they drafted Zach Frazier, Troy Fautanu, even though the tackle doesn't really pull on this play. But you look at the interior, Zach Frazier, good puller coming out of West Virginia. James Daniels, a really high-level athlete. Even Isaac Seumalo, he's a little bit older in age, but still a really good puller, had good moments in this regard last year. But, since Smith's offense is so zone heavy, he doesn't utilize pullers enough in my opinion, or as much as you would like to see, because the Steelers, they were the #1 team in the NFL last year when it comes to rushing concepts that involved a puller from a yards per carry standpoint. They were extremely successful, had a lot of good rushing plays out of that. But this is a good way to get pullers out in space, even though you're still basically running, what I would call like zone counter. Right here, really nice adjustment, kind of on the fly here from 67. 67, Drew Dahlman's Atlanta center. He's an extremely explosive athlete, really good in space, does a really nice job latching on. And then again, number 18, we see Matt Collins putting his body on the line, getting a hand on that defender for another really nice play. Now, here's a really interesting variation that I like a lot. This is out of a jumbo package. We get 6 offensive linemen on the field. Again, I wanted to point out a couple things just because I think this play is so difficult to defend, and you'll kind of see why, just the misdirection element. But this misdirection flow, it gives the tackle on the play side enough time to climb to number 45, which is Devin White. You'll kind of see why that's so important here in a second. But this also introduces the flexibility of this concept, and one of the reasons why I like it so much. Atlanta has what I think are covered, uncovered rules, and really what this means is instead of the center pulling on this play, they're actually going to pull the guard. And you can see why. Like if you look to the gap over of the center, he has big number 50, that's Vita Vea. So he is technically covered on this play. Now, if you look at the left guard, he's actually uncovered because there's no one in that A gap to his side. Now, right here, they're going to ask him to jab. You see, he notices, okay, I know I don't have a threat here. I'm going to reverse out and pivot. He basically becomes the kick out player on the edge defender. And then we are going to have the fullback as basically the lead blocker through the hole. Now, one thing with the defense too, and the reason why I brought up the misdirection and why it's so important and why this thing works so well is Tampa is basically trying to box this in, right? So the edge defender, he's going to take this thing on the outside shoulder. He's going to turn this back to the inside. Now, Levante David, number 54, he's going to take on the lead blocker in the same manner. Outside shoulder, he is trying to box this in because in theory, he knows most of his help from the defense is going to be coming from the inside. But because of those false steps, because of the misdirection, just that slight hesitation on number 45 allows the offensive lineman, in this case the center, time to get up to him and get latched on. And of course, we get a really nice explosive run here. This is Cordarrelle Patterson, another guy that the Steelers signed in the offseason. One thing I really like about Patterson's game, which we talked about a little bit after he signed, but just the physicality that he runs with. I love the lowering of the shoulder here. Anytime that we can set up our running back to where he's getting to the second, third level untouched, and we set up a one-on-one with a secondary player, this is an advantage for the offense. And just love the way Patterson, finishes that run, gets up, he's hyped. Really nice run there from the Falcons offense to set up a touchdown drive. So I also wanted to kind of show you guys an example of what happens if the edge defender crashes down the heel line of the tackle instead of playing the bootleg. This is actually something that if it does happen, it usually breeds an explosive play. So we'll kind of look at this. Now, the backside edge defender on like wide zone, outside zone, they're usually the person that's responsible for the boot. If you think about 5-6 years ago, NFL teams were just having a freaking field day. All these bootlegs and stuff like that because NFL defenses just weren't very good at playing it. Now, gotten a little bit better. But if the backside edge defender, if he starts, crashing down and not really respecting the threat of the boot, you can actually take advantage of it in the run game as well. So right here is a good example. Instead of kicking him out, you're going to see the center pull out, and he's actually just going to log him. He's just going to take him where he wants to go, so he can crash him down to the line of scrimmage. And then again, we get the fullback coming up. We get him as a lead blocker. Just really from there, this is just the running back reading the leverage of the linebacker and following his lead blocker to daylight. Robinson gets to basically the third level before he's even touched by a defender. See big old Matt Collins out there trying to get a good block for us as well. Play this one more time. But again, this one-cut ability for the running back, it's the running back's responsibility in this scheme to make the offensive line, make the blocks go. Really important, to have good vision. And Bijan was a guy that I think did a lot of really good things from Atlanta. I'm really excited to see what he's going to do in year 2. Atlanta did have some play action passes kind of off of this concept as well. They didn't run it a ton, but I did see it a couple times. This is from their week 1 game against the Packers. We get Kyle Pitts, actually a tight end, kind of hybrid player. He's lined up at the top of the screen. He's going to act like he's kind of stalk blocking before running a 6-7 yard in breaker. Again, you can watch kind of how the misdirection of this puts a tremendous amount of stress on the linebacker. If you look at the linebacker to that side, you see all the false steps. They've got him pretty much in a blender here. He moves outside, back in, tracks the back, and then they're going to basically throw it right behind his shoulder. But, you know, I would call this kind of a drift route that you'll see, and you'll see this quite a bit from Smith's offense, not necessarily off of Windback, but this is a really popular kind of formation that they like to use, the two receiver formations, excuse me. Oftentimes you'll see kind of a drift, which is just a 5 to 6 step you know, in breaker, and then they'll pair this on the other side as kind of like a 1-2 progression. You'll sometimes see like an 18 to 20 yard blaze out. Sometimes you'll see different routes on that side, just depending on the week or the game plan. Now, I wanted to throw a couple examples here because the Steelers didn't run a ton of Windback last year or really under Matt Canada in general, but I thought it was worth, you know, pointing out that there has been a couple times that we've at least seen it before. I first remember seeing this in 2022, I think, against the Saints. This is one that sticks out in my mind, but it was a really explosive play and something that I wanted to show on here. But personally, I like Smith's version better because it seems like to me right here we're basically arcing the edge defender, and that just means the tight end's basically ignoring him and then trying to climb up and use him as the lead blocker. Again, anytime you can get your backs, you know, one-on-one with a secondary player, in this case a corner, this is a huge win for the offense. You know, we want to make those guys tackle as much as possible and get out to the perimeter. And then lastly, we did see it a couple times last year as well, as used very sparingly, but this highlight reel worthy play from Jaylen Warren I think was at least worth putting on here. You know, he pretty much makes this all work on his own. But again, this is kind of why I prefer Smith's version, just because even if you're trying to kind of arc this edge defender with the tight end, sometimes this contact will happen naturally. And then basically what we have happen is here we have this linebacker number 6. He's unaccounted for. And instead of leaving, you know, a safety or a third level player unaccounted for, we get this linebacker unaccounted for. Nice job by Jaylen, kind of put his foot in the ground and manipulate this guy enough. And then you see some really good vision, good contact balance as he breaks off a huge run, basically on his own accord. So, but that's pretty much it for this video. I appreciate you guys watching. The Steelers run game with a new and hopefully improved offensive line, you know, I think it's going to be pretty fun to watch this fall. We know they're going to be really run heavy, and this play concept, man, it's pretty sick. I really enjoyed watching this, and like I said, it's probably my favorite concept in this playbook. So I definitely wanted to get a video for you guys because I think they're going to be able to hit a couple explosive plays on this thing in the fall, and then you guys will be able to, you know, watch from your own couch and say that, oh, I've seen that play before. So but there's a lot of exciting things coming to the channel in the next couple of weeks. I can't wait to share those guys with you, or those things with you, you know, when the time allows. So just make sure that you're subscribed. As always, let me know what you thought of the video and anything that you want to see moving forward, and I'll check you guys next time. Peace and love.